Has Dikshita Jadhav joined the call? Yeah.
Yes, hello.
Hi. Yeah. So thank you so much, Dikshita, for giving us your time today. And on behalf of Anna, I would like to welcome you to the online Vihara session. Let me introduce you to our audience today. So Dikshita Jadhav is a researcher and heritage practitioner working at the intersection of art, history, Buddhism, and social history. She holds an MA in History of Art from the Indian Institute of Heritage, New Delhi. Her work examines the socio-cultural significance of art and heritage with particular attention to questions of accessibility, caste, and historical memory. She has previously worked with the National Museum, New Delhi, and her research engages with the histories of Buddhist art and its contemporary social and political resonances. Dikshita also conducts Buddhist and Ambedkarite heritage walks rooted in her dissertation research using public history as a way to engage wider audiences with questions of representation, memory, and social justice within museum and heritage spaces. Thank you, Dikshita, for joining, and now over to you. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. Hello everyone, Jai Bhim. And um so I realized that it's going to be a mixed crowd. So I tried to make it more pictures and less text in my PPT. So whenever you have a doubt, just drop it in the chat box because it might happen that you might forget it. And I would like to answer each doubt you have. And today we will look at the Buddhist art that we find in the Indian subcontinent and how it has evolved. And it is just to give you an overview that whenever you visit a museum, uh, every museum all across the world has some Buddhist collection. And I feel like we should know what we are looking at and not be dependent on the labels that the museum put up. So let's see how it goes. I'm really excited for this. You would have to give me access for the screen sharing.
You should be able to share it now.
Oh, yeah, got it. Is it visible?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Oh, just a minute. So this is something I would like to start with because we have a lot of misconceptions about Buddhist art. What and this will be more of an interactive session. I won't be speaking, and I would like you all to unmute and answer the question if you know it. And it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. It's more about the discussion we do here. So, did Buddha actually forbid physical representation? We have heard the stories of why the image of Buddha came up so late. It is that Buddha said, "You do not need a physical representation of me to worship me." So, is it true that he forbidden physical representation? What are your takes on it? Please just unmute and answer it. It doesn't matter. It's all about what you know so far.
Yes, it's true.
Okay. Anyone else?
Dikshita, I think it would be better if we have the question answer session at the end. I do understand you want to have like an engaging session, but
Okay.
yeah, because like we want
Oh,
to, yeah, we want to keep the question answer session towards the end. Yeah.
cool, cool.
Yeah.
Totally fine. Okay, so the text we find there are a lot of references that say that Buddha actually never forbidded the physical representation. And in one of the texts, we find that King Bimbisara asked Buddha for his advice. He wanted to give something to the Prince of Sindh, and he asked, "What can I give the prince to make peace between us?" And Buddha suggested, "Why not give a portrait of mine?" So from this, we can see that portraits of Buddha were made even when he was alive. And then we have this. This is the stupa of Sopara. Now, again, this is the excavation done by Asiatic Society, and here we find the relics and the begging bowl, the Bhikshu Patra of Buddha, which he himself gave to the merchant uh, who paid for this to be made. And these are like certain examples where we realize that this is the misconception that Buddha said, "Do not represent me in art." Now, the first time we see any elaborate art representation is from the uh, period of Ashoka, which is a Mauryan dynasty, and he sponsored a lot of stupas, lot of pillars, which we know as Ashokan pillars now. Now, what happens is this has a lot of Persian influence. So certain design elements look foreign to us, and the reason for that is the transmigration and trade between the Ashokan Empire and the Western Empire. Now, when we talk about representation of Buddha, the earlier representation we find is aniconic, which is we show Buddha without showing his physical body. The sculpture we know right now, it happens 500 years after Buddha. So before that, we have symbols like the one on my left. We can see that a tree with a barricade. You can see that is supposed to be Buddha, or the Bodhi tree, which is the representation of Buddha. The second image, we can see a wheel. That wheel is Dhamma Chakra. And the thing hanging in the center, that is the garland. So here we see that the Dhamma Chakra is being worshipped, and this is the like the aniconic form of Buddha without showing his physical body. And then we see stupas and footprints of Buddha. These are the symbols we find at Sanchi Stup and Bharat Stup, where no physical form of Buddha is shown, but each narrative it is clear which object is supposed to be Buddha, and they managed to tell the entire story without showing him in his physical form. Now, for example, in Sanchi Stup, we have four gates: north, south, east, west. Now, each gate has those three architraves, and they have stories related to the life of Buddha or the Manushi Buddhas, the previous Buddhas, or the Jatak stories. Now, in this, we can see that the story of the great departure has been shown. Um, and uh, wait, sorry, I'll share another PDF. Just give me a minute. Okay, we'll go ahead with this. Uh, so in this, what happens is we are seeing that people are coming to worship the stupa, and everyone else is shown. The king is shown. The king is here with his entire uh, kingdom, and they are worshipping the stupa without showing the Buddha. And this used to be a common occurrence that whenever Buddha would be in any city or the garden of that particular kingdom, the king would come to pay his respect to him. And these are the types of representation we see. The other one would be the Abhinishkraman. The picture is wrong there. I apologize for that. In that, we see an empty horse which is leaving the palace. And once the horse reaches the forest, we see that the empty horse is returning, and footprints are shown. We saw footprints in the previous slide. So Buddha's presence has been shown with the footsteps instead of his body to show that he's leaving the palace and entering the forest. Yeah. Now, what happens is, it is during the Kushan period we start getting the first image of Buddha, and this is how it starts. So Kanishk starts minting gold coins, where we see the on the front side we have the portrait of Kanishka, and on the rear side we have a portrait of Bodhisattva. Now I'm saying this is not Buddha but Bodhisattva because in the left hand we see Vajra, which is a thunderbolt that Vajrapani holds, and Vajrapani is a bodhisattva, not a Buddha. Now, this is the portrait of the king, uh, Kanishka, and we can see that because there's an inscription on the robe. And this is how it starts. These people were not native of the Indian subcontinent. They came from Central Asia. There was no, so the misconception that Buddha said, "Do not portray me in art." They were not concerned with that. They came from a place where it was okay to make portraits and sculptures of important people. So when they came here, they started making the sculptures of Buddha. Um, and so what happens is they have the influence of Central Asia, Gandhar, and the influence of India. And the fusion of this creates the Indian Buddhist art. And we'll see how that happens. So now here we see the Hellenistic influence. These bodies look very Greek. These are not the Indian bodies, right? Now this is something that has been produced in Gandhar, which is in Pakistan, right? Now look at these figurines, the hair, the face, it's not Indian. It's something you would see in Greek art. Uh, and that's because there was a lot of transmigration happening between these two territories, right? Now, what happens is a king comes to you, the artist, and he says that I want you to make a sculpture of this guy who died hundreds of years ago. And now the artist has a huge responsibility. He has to imagine someone he has never seen, right? Now, every artist starts making a portrait or a sculpture, and they will think the best person they know, like whatever is the ideal beauty according to them. So, all of them are going to be very different. Now, there needs to be some standardization for it to make sense, right? An artist sitting in Gandhar will make a sculpture according to his beauty standard. An artist sitting in India or Mathura will make a sculpture according to his beauty standard. So it's during this time we got the three, like the 32 Mahapurush Lakshana, which are basically parameters when artists have to draw or like carve out image of Buddha. So you have the Ushnish. Ushnish is the hair the hair that is the updo Buddha has, that is called the Ushnish. Purnamark is something you have between your eyebrows, or uh, we commonly call it bindi. Then Samghati is the robe. Long earlobes, that is something we see in all Buddha images. The arms are supposed to be abnormally large. Then you have a broad chest. The fingers are always webbed. They are never separated. They will always be joined. It's like a frog's fingers. They will look like frog's fingers, right? Then you have flat feet. All the tall sculptures, standing sculptures, you'll see the feet will always be flat. We have a Dhamma wheel on the palms and on the soles of the sculptures. Then now the skin aspect comes, it is visible in the paintings. So when we see the murals of Ajanta, Bagh, or any other cave, we see like the skin is very smooth. There will be no blemishes, and there are many such lakshanas which the artists were keeping in mind when they were making these. sculpture. So these are basically the guidelines. So the eyes have to be lotus-like, the nose has to be arrow-like, and the eyebrows has to join it like a bow. Now, what happens? This brings some standardization when artists sitting in different areas are making a sculpture, right? Now, for example, this is the earliest Kushana period Buddha sculpture. Now, what is happening here is the proportions are all wrong. The hand is too big. The face looks nothing like the Buddha we know now, right? He has a mustache. The hair is stylized like the Greek. The halo is too small, and they have never seen someone wearing the samghati. Samghati is the chivar robe, right? So they have never seen someone wearing that, so they are just making the sculpture, um, visualizing it wearing something the Greeks would wear. They would also wear robe-like garments, but theirs would have a lot of pleats. We see the Greek art, and they have a lot of folds. So what they are doing now is they're trying to form the sculpture. So we see from here to the present day Buddha, we know how it transitions into that. Now this is much later. This is like 50 years later. We see now the hair is becoming more natural. It is not as stylized as this one, and it is wavy now, which is again the Greek influence. The face is boxy. It is more square in form. It is again not Indian because the Indian jawline does not look like the one here. They are trying to make the Indian eyes. So now we can see slowly they are adopting the lotus eye shape here. Now, the interesting part here is now they have understood how to show the robe, but they are still struggling to show the mudra. Mudras are the hand gestures. The Dhammachakra mudra, they don't know how to show it yet, right? So he, like in this sculpture, he's just holding one finger with the another one. In fact, it's supposed to be like this, right? So they are still struggling to make sense of how to show the mudras because they have not seen anyone doing that in person. You have to understand they are sitting in Gandhar, and Buddha was in present day India. He spent most of his life in Bihar. Now this is much later, and we can see that now they are able to get the proportions right. Now the halo is bigger than the head. The shoulders are broad, and we can see the body is very muscular. Again, the Greek influence. The attire, it is very Greek. The the folds that we can see are uh, thick, they are visible, and it's covering his body. Now, another thing to remember in these sculptures is here, both the shoulders are covered, right? Even here, both the shoulders are covered. Here, the one shoulder is visible. Now, why that happens is the earlier period, these artists, Gandhar is a cold region. So when they're imagining someone, they're imagining the same surrounding as they are living in. So they are thinking that if he is sitting outside, he's going to be cold. So the fabric will be thick. That's why the fabric is thick. That's why his both the shoulders are covered because they do not want him to be cold. In the later period, they have realized that people in India were, or at least in central India, they wear cotton or muslin uh, fabric because it's too humid here. And they drape it with just like drape it around one arm. And now this is the transition we are seeing over the 100 years. I hope I'm not confusing you and the visuals are easy to understand, right? Now, even here, the hand is broken. So Abhay Mudra is this simple palm facing outwards, which is something we imagine is like him blessing us, right? So here we can see that hair, uh, the hair is becoming more natural. The waves are becoming natural. They are not stylized. Stylized would be where it is dramatic. This is not. This is very local to the Greeks. That's how their hair is shown. Whenever we look at any Greek god, this is how their hair is shown, wavy. Now the face is again, uh, it's still square, but now the features are getting defined. The eyes you can see, they are getting the lotus shape now. And one of the Lakshana I mentioned is that the nose bridge has to connect to the eyebrows. That is happening here now. Again, both the shoulders are covered, but the fabric is becoming thinner. We can see his knee here, right? It's poking out of the fabric. Earlier, the fabric was thick. Now they are showing some movement. They are showing him walking, and it is visible. This is the this is the earlier version of this. See how much change has happened in 100 years, right? Now we have here Bodhisattva Maitreya. I am audible, right? Yeah. Okay. So
Yes.
Bodhisattva, the difference between Bodhisattva and Buddha is a physical, like a historical figure. Bodhisattvas are, I can loosely say, they are the concepts where the the Bodhisattva has all the qualities of Buddha, but they are delaying their Nibbana because they want to live in the like the material world to help the common people. So that's why they will never be shown wearing robes like Buddha. They are shown in with expensive jewels, wearing expensive jewels and expensive fabric. They are treated like prince because they are not living outside the material world. They're living with the common people. So it's important to understand this when we look at the art. That's why now Bodhisattva here we can see his hairstyle has like this elaborate hairdo. It looks like it has taken a lot of effort. He is wearing multiple jewels around his body, and the fabric looks expensive. This is something the king would wear, whereas Buddha is shown wearing a simple robe. Right. Now, when they are making the Bodhisattva, they are again getting inspired by the Greek gods. That's why here the Bodhisattva has six packs. I don't know, like it's not visible in this, but when you see the sculpture in the museum, you can see the body is very muscular. In some of them, you can see the veins of the Bodhisattva. They are intentionally made to be very attractive, right? Uh, Here again, we have Maitreya. So the iconography of Maitreya is such that he will always hold a kamandalu in his left hand. A kamandalu is the water pot, right? And another one. They will always be wearing fancy clothes and have elaborate hairdos. Now here is the comparison between the two. Same posture, but drastic change. Now, the best part about Gandhar art is they always gave a lot of importance to naturalism. So they would observe the surroundings and then they would make their art. So here, when we see the fasting Buddha, they have made it very naturalistic to the point where you can see the cheekbones, the veins on his forehead, something a malnourished person looks like. So that's why, uh, see, even here. And when a similar sculpture made in Mathura um, school of art is not shown with such details. And later on, in the 4th century CE, which is like 400 years after uh, the first sculpture was made, we start seeing this. This is something that is still reproduced. Now we have the lotus eyes, the eyebrows connecting to the nose, the lower lip is thicker than the upper lip, the hair is more naturalistic, and the ushnish is there, like it's visible. Ushnish is the bun on top of the head, right? Now, this is the struggle they went through. When they read in the scriptures that Dhamma Chakra is worshipped, they don't know what the Dhamma Chakra looks like. So they have just made a circle with some spokes which does not resemble the wheel at all. They don't know what the Bodhi tree looks like. So they have made their indigenous leaves on top. Now here, the story of the white elephant entering the womb of Queen Maya, they took it literally that the elephant is actually entering the womb. And here we can see it is like portrayed as it is entering her womb. Same here. And again, the scriptures say that the Buddha took birth not in the normal form, but he came out of her hip. And again, they took it literally. So there was a lot of translation gap, understanding was difficult for them. They are not familiar with our culture. So we see this in their art, the struggle they went through, right? Now, even here, the Abhinishkraman, where I said that Buddha left on his horse in the middle of the night, it is said that, so it, in the scriptures, we read that he left quietly without waking anyone up. So how do you show that? So they are showing people emerging from the ground. These are divine people here, and they are holding the legs of the horse so it won't make any noise when he is leaving. So we see how they are taking everything literally when they are making art. See, again here, people emerging from the ground to stop the noise. Now, here we can see the influence of Greek costume. On Buddha's left side, it is Vajrapani holding the thunderbolt, and it is modeled after Zeus, the Greek god. Exactly the same beard, same hair, same costume, because they both hold the thunderbolt. And yeah, again here. Now, again here, they don't know how to show a people tree. They have never seen a people tree. So they are making their own version of people tree behind Buddha's head. And the Dhamma Chakra Pavatan Mudra, that he is spinning the wheel. So they literally made a wheel instead of him making it with his hand. Again, they're trying to get the setting right. Now they have finally managed to show the people tree. You can see the leaves. It is after 400 years, after all that trial and error, that they find this composition which matches the description in the text. And this is the Mahaparinirvan of Buddha. And here again, they are shown with their hands on their head, crying. This is something which is not visible in the Indian art, because in the Indian art, we do not show extreme emotions, but in their art, it is all about the dramatics. So everyone is shown with a unique expression on their face. And this is fun. Uh, we have the tradition of burning the dead body, right? We cremate them, but there they do not cremate it. They bury the body in a casket. So they have shown the Mahaparinirvan by putting him in a casket instead of making uh, the relics, as in instead of turning his body into relics after cremation. So these are the differences we see in the art. Uh, how much time do we have?
Um, you can continue for another 5 minutes and then we can have the question.
Okay, okay, okay. Thank you. Um, so now, so now we come to the uh, Mathura part of Kushan period. Now, this figure is a Yaksha. These are the indigenous gods and goddesses. Like Yaksha, Yakshis were worshipped before we got the concept of God or the Vedic God as such. So, all the sculpture of Buddha and Bodhisattvas were modeled after these Yaksha, Yakshi figurines because that's what the artist knew, right? And she is the Yakshi, or in some case, a Shal Banjika. So the Yakshi symbolizes fertility, and the Yaksha is symbolizing protection and wealth. So the Yaksha will always have a belly, and the Yakshi will always have a voluptuous body, and she will be beautiful. Right? These are the Yakshis. We see them on the railing of Sanchi Stoop, Bharut Stoop, all of them. Now, this is the earliest Buddha head we get in Mathura. You can see the Ushnish. It is a normal hairdo any one of us does, right? The features are very Indian. Look at the face. This is a common man's face that we see in India. There are no lakshanas here as such. They are trying to create something using the knowledge they have when they make the yaksha figure. Now, this looks like the yaksha we saw earlier. Broad shoulder, the belly, it has some heaviness here. There's a belly pouch, if you can see. And the face is bulky. Now, they are trying to put the 32 lakshanas here. So, we have the long earlobes, we have long arms, and we have the bow like arrow or bow and arrow like nose and eyebrows, but they are not as polished as the ones we see later on. They are just getting started, right? Even here they have the iconography, right? They know how to show the mudra, they know how what to put in the compositions. Like on the seat we can see there's a dhamma chakra that has been shown, a spinning wheel. um, and They're still trying to get the face right. This is a yaksha's body, but they have turned it into Buddha. Again, same thing is happening here, but now we see some kind of fluidity in the body, like as in the fabric, we can see it is uh, becoming thinner. The face is becoming slimmer. It is not bulky. It is not scary. And the reason this sculpture will, like the Mathura sculpture will always have a thinner fabric is because Mathura has a lot of humidity. So people wear light fabrics, and that's what we see here, unlike the one we saw in Gandhar. Now, again, this is a yaksha. Look at this. Sorry, this is a bodhisattva. Uh, this is how the bodhisattva is modeled on the body of a yaksha. And we would not be able to figure out that he is a bodhisattva if there was no inscription. That's how they were making it. It was a direct copy paste of whatever tradition was before the Buddhist art started. Now, here, as I told you earlier, bodhisattvas will always be shown with a lot of jewelry and um uh, elaborate hairstyles. Here, he is bald. There is no expensive drapery around his body. That's why it could look like any other yaksha figure. But here, now they have started showing him with uh, properly done hair, a lot of jewelry. And this is after we get the 32 Lakshanas. And in this, we have the Jatak stories. The Shivi Jatak is where a bird is a bird is getting attacked, and to save the bird, the king offers a part of his thigh, which weighs the same as the bird, to protect the bird from being killed, and offers his like meat instead. So what we see here is now the narratives are becoming a part of the pictorial form. Bodhisattva, Buddha, and the Jatak stories are all coming together to spread Buddhism. And there are multiple other presentations, but we are running out of time. So, what I want to say is everything had a reason. The Buddha we see right now, it evolved after a lot of trial error. It evolved due to the uh, uh, environmental reasons, as we can see that sculpture made in whole desert had different uh, drapery. Sculpture made in the humid region had a different drapery. Then you have the miscommunication between the Gandhar region and the Mathura region. Then you have the analysis of the text that was available at the Kushan, like during the Kushan rule. And all of this led to the emergence of Buddha, uh, we know. And it is during the Gupta period, all of this was refined during what we call the classical period of Indian art. It is classical because it has both the spiritual and the sensual appeal. So the Padmapani and the Vajrapani we see in Ajanta, or any sculpture from Sarnath of Buddha, it has both. So if you forget it is Buddha, there is a sensuality to that sculpture. But the fact that it is well balanced is what makes it a classical period for Buddhist art and Indian art. And that's where we get the entire Ajanta uh, paintings. And yeah, that was the evolution from a stoop to an iconic or the symbolic representation to the representation we know now. Yeah, thank you. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Dikshita, for talking us through the entire development of how the Buddhist art has evolved over the centuries. And like, if I may summarize, like, I found it really interesting how regional environments and the artist awareness of what regional aesthetics, their clothing, their features, and all these parameters influence their interpretation and their perception of what Buddha would be, especially in the Gandhar times, and their perception based on their limited resources at that time heavily influenced how they depicted the art, be it paintings or statues. So it's really interesting, like, and I'm sure, like, now when we look at these statues or pictures in museums or anywhere, like, we'll keep that in mind, like how this entire art has evolved over the centuries. So thank you again. Now we'll open the floor to the audience to ask you for questions. If anyone has any questions, please raise your hand, and we'll ask you to unmute you, and then you can ask your question. If anyone from the audience has any questions for Dikshita Jadhav, please raise your hands. Yeah. Praneeth, please go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dikshita. That was amazing presentation. I have a question. One of in one of the slides, you mentioned that people have traveled from different territories to different territories, and they have expressed Buddha and their sculpture in what they perceived Buddha as. I wonder if your research, or are there any findings that have identified if there are any conflicts between those presentations of sculptures? Because people have defined Buddha in different way, and they have put it in sculpture in different way, as you have presented in your presentations. One of the reasons why I'm asking this question is the place where I live in, we have one of the prestigious art museum in the United States, and they have like huge section for Buddha sculpture. And I have observed that, there are like different sculpture from different parts of world, including Pakistan, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Greece art as well, and people elsewhere who have perceived Buddha in their own way and presented that in terms of sculpture. So I wonder if there have been any conflicts between these different communities, and there have been any standard method where they can express Buddhism through sculpture.
Yeah. So there was no conflict as such. As I said, that even when we look at the Gandhar and Mathura art, it is emerging under one rule, and they are so drastically different, right? Now, when we talk about the subcontinent, the art that was created in India, Japan, China, it was all different because uh, they were being made by the local artisans. So they were again used to their own material. The physical representation of any human form in their local tradition uh, was always different from each other. So there was no as such any conflict between these regions, because when we look at the Buddha that we get in Iran after the emergence of the Islamic art, we find Buddha being shown wearing a skull cap, and there was no conflict because again the trade was continuous during this period, and nowhere we find any such conflict being written about, at least in the textual format. We have a lot of records, there are a lot of discussions, then there are these conferences that happened after the death of Buddha. And all these aspects are discussed, how to show Buddha, whether to show him or not. It is not until the third conference that people started talking about the depiction of Buddha, right? So they were more than happy for the Dhamma to be uh, um, reaching the different areas across the globe. They were not concerned with how he was shown because uh, nobody had seen Buddha. The artists who were portraying him, they had never seen him. For him to be depicted in their local tradition instead of sticking to one fixed art for fixed depiction of his physical attributes as such. It is later during the Kanishka period we get these 32 parameters, which were loosely adopted by the Western and the Southeast Asian countries as well, but they still show their local variations. I hope I answered your question.
Great, thanks.
Anyone else from the audience would like to ask a question? Please raise your hand.
Pranati, may I ask a question?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. So Dikshita, this was a very good presentation. Thank you for coming online and helping us understand this. I wish you had a little more time to show us the Mathura art as well. But
Yeah.
the pictures and the slides you showed today, they were very magnificent. And the comparison story from, early on and a little bit later, it really helps you understand how the art developed. And it is very important that we learn the history from it. So art and archaeology helps us understand how the things evolved. So thank you so much for doing this history lesson actually for us. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting
Yeah,
me and giving me the
yeah, please
opportunity.
come back with Mathura art. So this will be
Yeah, there's a lot more. We are yet to touch the Gupta period, the classical period.
yes, yeah, because Gandhar is like you said, it was their way of interpreting the art. So how did the Indians from the Bihar region, how the artists develop their arts? Because some of them were pretty close to the area where Buddha lived. So
Yes.
maybe their art can tell us a different story.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Do we have any more questions from the audience? Uh, I do have one question for you. You did talk us through how this art has evolved over especially for the Gandhara region. So, and you did mention that a lot of it was influenced by the Greek culture and Greek mythology and gods. So, I just wanted to understand, like, especially for Gandhara, how did the Greek influence come into picture? Like, was it because of the trade, or was it because of like some like, did they have any reference statues or reference art, or did some of the artists in the Gandhara, were they the artists who originally came from Greek, or were they taught by Greek artists? Like, that would really help us understand how this was interpreted.
Yes. So in the ancient period, Gandhara was the one region where the transmigration was happening. People from the Indian, like what we know as India now, migrated to Gandhar. People from the Greek areas, they migrated to Gandhar because uh, this was a conflicted territory. Everyone was trying to claim it, which is the case with, let's say, POK right now. People, half of them say they are Indians, half of them say they are Pakistani, right? So the same was happening with Gandhar. What happened is that when the Greeks came to India, they left a lot of their like population, their associates here to manage their territory, right? Now, what happens is the artists they come here, but they still are like carrying the teachings of their region. They are trained in the Greek school. They are trained with the narratives and the aesthetics of their region. So when even when they migrated to Gandhar, they were still making art using those like that training from their homeland instead of creating their own version. It takes generations to come up with your own style, and that's why we see in Gandhar. The influence of Greek iconography or Greek aesthetics is overpowering that of the Indian iconography or aesthetics. Right.
Thank you so much, Dikshita,
Mm.
again, for sharing all these insights. And I'm sure like this has changed everyone's perception on how we are going to view Buddhist icons, like going forward, especially when we visit museums or when we read historical texts. So thank you again. And as you know, we are celebrating Women's Day month. So as we are doing it in Anna as well. So every week we are having women guest speakers in March, and it was really an honor to have you attend today's online session. So once again, on behalf of Anna, I would like to thank you, and hopefully we'll get to hear more from you in the future, especially the Mathura art and how it evolved. Thank you again.
Definitely.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you for calling.
Thank you. With this, I would like to conclude our online Vihara session for today. I would like to express my deep thanks to Venerable Bhante, Dr. Sariputta Thero, for for sharing the Dhamma discourse with us today. A special mention to Smith Mamankar for reading the motivational story. And thanks again to Dikshita Jadhav for sharing the insights on how Buddhist art has evolved over the centuries. With this, we conclude today's session. Hopefully, you all will join next week. Thank you. Namo Buddhaya Jai Bhim.